You ever wake up and realize you're at war and you never even heard the first shot? That's how it felt the morning I found a glossy envelope on my kitchen table, a bill for $3, 500 from an HOA I'd never heard of, claiming my family farm was now part of their so-called preserve. That's right, they tried to steal 120 acres my grandfather bled into using fake paperwork and silent threats, thinking a tired old lawyer like me would just roll over. Let me tell you, these folks picked the wrong farmer to mess with. See, after 20 years arguing property disputes in courtrooms that smelled like old coffee and fear, I'd hung up my suit and come out here for peace. Just me, two barns that could tell stories, and the kind of New Mexico silence you can't buy until the day the HOA banners showed up across the lake waving like a middle finger to everything rural. But I wasn't worried. I did my homework, checked the plats, made sure my taxes went straight to the county hell. I paid 2 lawyers to swear on a stack of deeds that my land had never been part of any master plan, HOA, or gated fantasy land. For a year, I was right. Then that letter hit. No hello, just a fine and a list of made-up violations, my goat fence, my irrigation line, visual clutter, as if a working tractor was a crime against their plastic Tuscany. I read it 3 times before I laughed. You ever get so mad you just have to laugh? I wiped the grease off my hands, put on the same blazer I wore the day I resigned from the bar, and marched straight into their HOA office driftwood sculptures, fake stone walls, and a blonde woman with a smile sharp enough to slice ham. Karen Duvall. I'd never met her, but trust me, I knew her type. She greeted me like she was welcoming a stray dog to her golf fundraiser. Mr. Miller, we've been expecting you. I hope the welcome package wasn't overwhelming. I said, you sent me a bill for $3,500. She nodded, syrupy sweet. Now that your parcel is officially part of the preserve, we must ensure compliance. It's for the safety and uniformity of all residents. I told her flat out I'm not a resident and my land isn't part of your community. But she just leaned in, tilting her head like she pitied me. Oh, but it is now, she said. We filed the incorporation. Your property is within our boundary. It's on the map. That's when I knew this was bigger than some paperwork screw-up. These people were trying to draw my home right out from under me. So I drove straight to the county office, still smelled like toner and resignation, still the same clerk from 5 years back. Janet took one look at the notice and shook her head. Well, hell, that's not right. 15 minutes later, she dug up a folder, my blue property line surrounded by a new red boundary labeled Greater Preserve Overlay District. Filed 3 weeks ago with a future inclusion acknowledgement signed by my grandfather. Except he'd been dead a year before the date on that paper. That signature was as fake as Karen's smile. By the time I got back, the mailbox was full of more HOA garbage, new violations, a welcome brochure, an invitation to the spring planting day on land I'd been planting since they were in grade school. It didn't stop there. White SUV, no plates, parked at my access road, a guy snapping pictures of my barns, my goats, my life. When I confronted him, he had the nerve to claim he was doing a compliance survey on a public easement. I blocked his car with my truck, made it clear, step foot here again, I'll press charges. The next day, my feed store friend called worried. Some HOA flunky was snooping around asking if I had proper livestock disposal permits. By July, the hardware store clerk said people were whispering about unpaid taxes, phantom EPA violations, total lies, but that's how these people work. Official-looking flyers started turning up calling me a lawbreaker, painting me as some menace to the community. They even had a photo of me sweat-soaked and shirtless like I was the villain in my own story. Then came the concrete. One morning I walked out to find a flatbed truck dropping barriers branded with the HOA's logo right across my only entrance. Metal signs too. Private property HOA members only. I called the sheriff. The deputy shrugged, said my land showed up in the system as HOA property now. If I thought it was wrong, file with the court. Civil matter. That phrase tastes like dirt. So I called in the cavalry. Tom, an old surveyor buddy, showed up with drones, topo maps, and a stubborn streak. Jane, a journalist with a nose for corruption, rolled in with cameras. Together we found corner pins the HOA had planted to fake a new boundary stupid, since now it was evidence. Jane published the first expose online, the HOA that ate the farm, and suddenly people all over the state were telling their own stories. Turns out I wasn't alone. That's when the sabotage started. Some young guy named Zach drifted in, claiming he was a volunteer too eager by half. Left the chicken run open, accidentally broke the barn lock, and vanished after a couple days, but not before I found his number linked to a landscaping company with HOA ties. And then one night, a drone with HOA security branding zipped over my Westfield. Subtle, right? Jane's next piece went viral, and the HOA doubled down, threatening legal action, sending inspection teams in yellow vests with metal detectors like I'd buried gold. Then came the big one. I woke to flames along my eastern fence set with accelerant burning toward my fields. But these folks weren't careful. They left tracks, tire marks, and even a melted zip tie behind. That fire brought in the feds. Agent Ramirez, a quiet, hard man, called me within hours after Jane forwarded the evidence drone photos, fake documents, audio of HOA guards talking about removing cameras. Ramirez said, "Don't escalate. We're building a case. Conspiracy, mapping fraud, maybe RICO." I'd never been so relieved and so angry at once, but Karen didn't back off. She filed a civil suit claiming my ditch-blocked emergency access, that I was hostile and aggressive. My attorney countered fraud, trespass, malicious prosecution, filed in federal court with a mountain of evidence. And the final nail, Tom found a surveillance transmitter buried in my field, running off to a black box straight from a Nevada supplier. Karen's fingerprints everywhere. That's when it broke wide open. The HOA board resigned. Federal subpoenas hit their office. Karen, still stubborn, hired a crew to tear out my ditch. I caught them on trail cams, called the sheriff, called the feds. By the next morning, Karen was in custody. Quiet, no scene, her designer sunglasses hiding nothing. The charges: fraud, wire, crimes, racketeering, and more. County officials got swept up too, resigning or suspended as the truth spilled out. Bribes, fake maps, digital signatures proven by forensic labs to be less than 5 years old, stamped with AI fonts. The judge ruled fast. Every HOA fine voided my land. Permanently protected. HOA dissolved for systemic fraud. I stood outside the courthouse holding the order that finally called my farm sovereign unencumbered and exempt from any and all HOA jurisdiction. Jane's documentary aired, and suddenly strangers wrote to thank me, share their own HOA nightmares, or just say they felt a little less alone. Now there's a new sign where the ditch used to be metal weatherproof welded into stone. Private land, not for sale, not for absorption. Welcome unless you're HOA. Underneath established 1946. Still here. So here's my question for you. When does defending what's yours become everyone's fight? Would you have backed down or dug your heels in too? Drop a comment, share your story. And if you've ever had to stand your ground against the suits and the lies, let's hear it. Because justice isn't just a word on paper, it's a line in the dirt. And sometimes you got to be the one to draw it.